Okay.
It's 6:37. I'd like to call to order the school committee meeting of July 20th. Can I have a motion to approve the budget? I mean, approve the agenda?
Agenda, so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Comments from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on to superintendent's report.
I missed if you came out.
Yes, we did.
Hi, I have the time.
Beth?
Okay, very good. So I'd like to provide a brief overview of my superintendent entry findings, which you have received a few days ago. Last year in September, I created an entry plan, which is an important part of the new superintendent induction program and my professional practice goal. And the idea is for new superintendents to take the time to investigate the district through interviews, data review, and observation. I collected data through interviews with a variety of stakeholders, including school committee, leadership, teachers, students, parents, and community members. And I also reviewed state and district data. In compiling this data, 4 distinct themes emerged. Theme 1 is high quality instruction and academic achievement. Theme 2 is meeting the needs of all students. Theme 3, district culture and communication. And theme 4, Nantucket community connections. So throughout the work, I kept in mind 3 important core values: keeping students at the center of every decision, understanding that every Nantucket Public Schools employee has a shared responsibility for the success of our students, and collaborating in order to strengthen our district to be the best it can be. So I will go through, since it is a report that, like I said, you have read and it is a little lengthy, I will go through and highlight a few of the strengths and areas of improvement or further investigation, but I won't go through every one. I'm certainly happy to take questions after this. So in the first theme, high quality education and academic achievement, some of the strengths that were included were success of our graduates going on to high caliber colleges and universities, our students completing advanced coursework and receiving high scores on their AP exams, and teachers across the district continuing their own professional learning through graduate level work in pedagogy or content. Some of the areas for improvement and further investigation for theme 1, first theme, would be raising the expectations for all, particularly at middle school, reviewing and learning from our implementation of Schoology and how it is best used at all levels, better direction towards what mastery of standards looks like at each level, and how to provide clear goals for moving students forward with high quality grade level content. So in the second theme, meeting the needs of all students, some of the strengths that were incorporated and included in this theme were strong, trusting relationships between students and adults in our schools, a growing diversity of our student body that is looked at as a great advantage and something to celebrate, multiple opportunities and services for students with disabilities in our district, with only a small number of students who have to receive special services outside of the district, and a strong, inclusive athletics program. Some examples of our opportunities for improvement in this theme are we need to catch up with the growing diversity in our district by making sure that all students have equitable access to resources and the curriculum, and by continuing recruitment of educators that represent the diversity in our student body. Another example is more mental health support for our students and families. That was a clear indicator that came out from a lot of the interviews. And another example would be moving in a direction of more vocational opportunities with pathways to start moving earlier. For our third theme, district culture and communication, some of the examples of the strengths in this theme were a strong sense of belonging and connectedness among staff across the district, as was clearly represented during this pandemic year. A healthy pathway for growing teachers from teaching assistants with opportunities across all areas of professional growth, and better communication with parents and families during the pandemic. So some areas where we could improve in theme 3, district culture and communication. After this challenging year, we do need to strengthen the relationships among district stakeholders, but particularly between administrators and staff. We need to make sure that there are solid systems in place that present clear expectations for all, such as attendance, grading, safety, and security. And also, we need to look at different ways of communicating with parents and families that may not react to traditional forms of communication. So we need to explore social media, for example, and look at different unique ways of communicating with our families and students. The fourth theme is the Nantucket Community Connections. Strengths in this area are, for example, well-established community partnerships that allow for multiple learning opportunities outside of the classroom for our students. The Nantucket Community School is a huge strength, and it acts as a bridge between the school district and the greater community and offers wonderful programming. And some opportunities for improvement in this theme include making housing for school staff a priority. Also providing more school to career offerings to build connections with local businesses and organizations. And as I mentioned above, a stronger presence in the local media, such as the Inquirer and Mirror, NCTV, and a few other locations. So the findings that were outlined in this report will become part of the planning tools to determine strategies for the district going forward. And I want to thank all of the people who have been part of this entry process. Some are sitting here in school committee, and many are sitting out in the audience, and then many others who aren't present. But I was very glad to have had an opportunity to speak with them. And as challenging as it was to get an entry plan and entry process done in a pandemic year, I'm really glad to have completed this important experience as a new superintendent.
What do you have to for questions?
I can do questions now and then move on. So.
Do you have any questions, Ryan?
No, just thank you, Beth. That was, I mean, you've put a lot of time and effort into this, and I think it's really important to have this document. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. You were able to pull out from everybody that you met with what's important for our district. So thank you.
Questions?
No questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, on to professional teacher status.
Sure. We have 12 teachers who have successfully completed their 3-year probationary period as developing educators, and they will be joining the ranks of professional teachers. So having professional teacher status, or PTS, is not to be confused with professional licensure. But it means that these educators can be moved from being evaluated every year to every 2 years. And in addition, they have seniority and are considered tenured teachers. So we are very happy to welcome them to the professional teacher status and wish them well in their continued careers in the Nantucket Public Schools.
Are you going to name them?
I'm not, but I can in the future.
Okay.
If you wish.
Okay. Hiring update?
Yes. So we are getting closer to each building completing. We have a few positions that are a little more challenging to fill. We have a middle school math position that needs to be filled, high school severe special needs, coordinator for student support, and a few others. But for the most part, we have done well this year in filling most of our positions. We do have still an assistant principal position at the elementary school, and we're looking for opportunities within a job fair that we are going to have next Monday, July 26th. Outside of central office, and we're looking forward to capturing some interest from summer residents who might like to stay and join our team. So that's all.
Moving on to presentations and discussions of issues of interest at the committee. Sarah, do you want to?
Hello, I am Sarah Erickson. I am the Central Registrar here at the Nantucket Public Schools. I think we reached my 3rd year as Registrar with my 6th here at the school. So I think by now we've gotten the Central Registration Office into a pretty great place, and I'd love to share a little bit more about that with you.
Yep.
Move on to this slide. slide. Awesome. So before I get too much into it, I do want to just clarify the difference between registration and enrollment. So more often than not, you will see the enrollment numbers come through in your packets from week to week, but my office handles registrations a little bit differently. When possible, we register students far out. So in a few minutes, I'll be reporting on what I've done thus far for the incoming school year. We're already about halfway through what we can anticipate for the coming school year, and that is traditional from year to year. So registration is basically when they meet with me. Enrollment is when they start, is the short version of that. My goals when I meet with families are consistency with flexibility. I do have a script that I stick to, but I do allow for the flexibility in there. Oftentimes we do see families move in to the public schools from the new school or the lighthouse school. Those families being long-term residents of Nantucket, they might not need the same information that a family that is coming in from abroad might need. So I do cater those appointments to that. And in addition, I do speak basic fundamental Spanish, so I do try to offer that appointment in English or Spanish, which I think is a great asset to families. So go to the next slide, please. There are several benefits to central registration. The top, I would definitely say, is that it is a lot easier on family experience. More often than not, we do have families come in with multiple children, and when they would normally have to register pre-central registration, they would have to go to multiple schools, schedule multiple appointments. So now it's all in-house, one meeting, we get it all out of the way together, and that might be 3 kids, 3 different schools, all one appointment. We take care of as much as possible. And what's great about this is it does prioritize the family experience, and especially when families have to take time off of work, it really helps to clarify with them that their children are at the center of our focus. What is also great about it is it shows us the children within the context of their family, and that can be a very informative meeting. And finally, it is another opportunity for us to provide some support to families, get to know them a little more, maybe help their transition to the island if that is what they need, or just provide something like help with Aspen, which we all know is greatly welcome. Next slide, please. So what do families actually experience when they meet with me? I usually start the appointment with what I call a mini vocabulary lesson, just making sure everyone's on the same page with what Schoology is, what Aspen is, what our website has to offer. The registration forms themselves collect student biographical data, parent, guardian, and emergency contact data, health information, as well as home language information. I explain thoroughly all of the annual permission slips that they will sign, and then we move on to general school expectations. And that can be a shortened version, everything from this is just what the school day is, times, where the bus routes are, to a much more elaborate explanation for families that simply might not have that institutional knowledge of Nantucket yet. Next slide, please. There are a couple of things that we do in addition to that where families need them. The first is I do share information about programs within the school. There are a few listed here up on the screen. Many families come in knowing what is available to them, but I never make that assumption, and I do try to help families understand that this is a great school system for support, but also in addition we have some great organizations in the community that are there to support them as well. I will take this time to just mention one of the things that I will do with our newcomers from out of the country is I will sit with them during the registration appointment and actually register them as a patient at the hospital and then call the hospital and schedule their physical exams. And I use this as an example for that family outreach that the central registrar does as, I will go the distance if the family needs that. And I think that is something that we're seeing more of in the school system, and it is very great. Next slide, please. Behind the scenes, what actually happens is I notify the schools of incoming students, anyone who needs to be included. It will always include building admins, counselors, and the technology department, but if necessary, it will also include appropriate information for the English language learner department or the special education department. On average, This takes about an hour to 3 hours with the family per child, and it takes between 3 and 5 hours per child after the fact. And that varies widely. Some families are extremely well prepared and might not take an hour overall, but oftentimes we do see that several families need much more assistance, and again, we are more than happy to help. Next slide, please. Here are the numbers that we have so far for the 2021-2022 school year, and I do have the numbers for the past 2 years. These are the numbers that I have since I've been here. Previously, registrations were handled by individual offices and counselors. So in the 2019-2020 school year, that was 233 students that I registered. Last year, for this past school year, it was 227, and thus far we have 175. There are a couple things that I want to note here. On the kindergarten and pre-K, they are separated because those are not the anticipated class sizes. You can expect the kindergarten class to have an additional 20 to 30 students, depending on the year, roll up from our existing Pathways and Peers pre-K program. And similarly, those pre-K numbers do not include the students that are already active in that program that will stay there next year, because that program does cover multiple ages. Next slide, please. There are a couple of things that I do want to describe when it comes to nuanced registrations. This first one is super quick. I know it was something that came up last year, which is seasonal families moving to Nantucket. No, we have not really seen this yet for this school year, and I don't know that we will, but last year we had over 30 families inquire and more than 20 register. Not all ended up coming. And I did just want to mention that those families were held to exactly the same registration requirements as any other family who lives here, with the exception being, next slide please. Slide. Oh, great. Our immigrant families. Now, before I get into this, I do just want to mention not all immigrant families are English language learners, and not all English language learner students are immigrants. Immigrant students are classified as anyone who has moved to the United States in the last 3 years. So that might mean they transfer in from another state, or they just move directly to Nantucket. How do we find out who this is a great question, because technically I cannot ask. This is where it's really important to make sure that that script that I have is flexible, and that the registration appointments are very much conversational. We tease a lot of information out that we can, but more often than not, information is volunteered to us. One of the really important pieces of the conversational aspect of this is we learn a lot about what the immigrant experience can be like, and oftentimes I am able to pass on the message to the counselor that this child might have had interrupted learning and might need a life screener, or that they have come through a detention center with a potentially traumatic history there. Similarly, it might just be a complicated issue at hand, perhaps a family moving in from abroad where they had grown up and spent 14 years with one parent and are now living with another parent who they've never lived with before, and are experiencing a lot of changes in expectations in what is already a significant move to another country and another educational system. So it's very important that we take the time to learn those parts of those families. One of the things I also mentioned here is the Plyler versus Doe avoiding the chill factor, and that we do not require documentation for immigrant families. I know that might seem strange, however, the chill factor is really helping families transition here without the added burden of paperwork. More often than not, they have it. We're not going to keep them out of school because they don't. Our priority is the child getting into school. And that chill factor doesn't always need to be a physical barrier to education. It can be something as simple as, or as complicated as, a language barrier or a complicated system. Having one person to contact that helps see you through your registration process has been really important to those families. Next slide, please. I know this doesn't seem a little bit disjointed. One of the other things I do in the central registration office is process our free and reduced lunch meals program. It's commonly referred to as the Free and Reduced Lunch program. However, breakfast is included. And I have some basic information up here on it. The families qualify for this program on a income limit. It is the gross income limit set by the USDA every single year. It does change. And we have almost doubled participation in this program since I was hired back in 2015, 2016, and a lot of that has just been massaging the data. Families are complicated, but accounting for blended families, families that have different last names, families that might have older children and a parent remarried and changed their last name and have younger children, and now they look like two separate households in the computer system, but we're going to bring them together as one. That is how we close that gap and have extended those benefits to those families. So I think it's really important that we continue giving these great benefits to our families and attention to that program. The next slide, please. Here are our participation numbers as of March 31st, which is our last major reporting window to the state for this program. There were a handful of other kids that did come into it, but I know people are always surprised by these numbers when they think about Nantucket. A lot of people think about a very affluent community, but in reality, like I said earlier, the families that qualify for this program are meeting the federal low income limit, which is $933 annually for this past year, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. Next slide, please. And how do families participate in this program? Most of our families do qualify for this program through a process called direct certification. Basically, I send a list of our student body to the state. They send a list back saying this is who we know already participate in a program like SNAP, formerly known as Food Stamps or Los Cupones. Or Medicaid, Mass Health. I don't get to know everybody, but I do get to know a bunch. And that information is protected across the board. We report out statistics, we do not report out participants. Families that do not qualify by direct certification have the right to apply with a paper application, and those are available in our front office, on our school website, and are mailed home to families. We really, I don't want to say we push parents to participate in this program, but I really try to take any stigma away from this program because, as we all know, if you have kids and suddenly find yourself not needing to have this one expense, you know it's going right back to them. So it really does just help our students in the future. And that was all. Questions?
Okay.
Very thorough. I don't have a question. I don't. No, great job.
Thank you.
Welcome.
No questions. Thank you.
No questions. Thank you, Sarah.
Colleen?
I do. First of all, Sarah, you know, you're laughing at me. Always have a question or comment. First of all, I'm so thrilled that you are in this position. Not only you personally, but for us to have the central registration, because I've been here long enough to know what it was like beforehand. And certainly, as you said, a family with 4 children coming into the district, it could possibly have required them to go into 4 different administrative offices. So I love, and I also love, because you all know this is my passion, the outreach, the fact that you are connecting them to resources, and you've got them there clearly. This and the hospital are 2 places where families are going to come, right? So I love it that you're doing that. Question, is all of the applications, are they still handwritten? Like when you sit with them and help them fill the application out, is it online or is it still the old
Everything is online now, and it's also online in Spanish and Portuguese.
Right,
So,
so they just do it there in the office with you?
They can do it there in the office with me. They have the option to do it themselves at home, and it is mobile friendly as well.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, Esmeralda, we're on the PR and Communications Committee, and I'm just thinking, I know in the past, and I don't know that this has changed just because we've got a central registration, is we tend to, at the beginning of the school year, have a lot of well, not a lot, but a good proportion of families come in during the week before school or once school has started. And I'm wondering if we might be able to do some outreach together for the school, along with Dr. Hallett and our principals, to get some language out that could encourage families to know about your office, know what they can expect when they come in, and maybe we can help encourage families register early, because it does help us a little bit more getting school prepared, knowing it's hard when you add 20 new students or 30 at times once school started. So would that be helpful?
Absolutely.
Work on that? Okay. That's it, I'm done, thank you.
I love that you get Mass General registrations because people come to the office and they're not registered and you can't get anything done. I think that's a very smart part of your
Thank you.
program.
Yes, I was finding that it was a great burden on families and quite confusing, so I'm there to help.
And where are you located?
The elementary school, which is where most of our registrations are.
Okay.
Thank
Great,
you very much.
thank you, Sarah.
Okay, Martin, you're going to tell us about gift fund donations?
Good
Hi,
evening.
Martin.
Hi, good evening. Martin Angelov, Director of Finance for the Nantucket Public Schools. This is a yearly update that we started, I believe, 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, that I've been doing with all the gifts and donations that come through the system, whether it's for the Nantucket Public Schools or the community school. And as you see from the spreadsheet, it's very dense, but it's what we've received this year, and the dates are the dates of the school committee when the gifts were actually voted and accepted. So this year we received slightly over $305,000. The community has been extraordinarily generous in light of what we have faced the past 2 years. Over the past 2 years, our gifts and donations total over $550,000. Of which almost 360 have gone to the community school. As you know, as an organization, the community school has suffered a lot with all the programming that hasn't been able to occur, or any kind of staffing levels that weren't maintained, and so the revenue streams were interrupted when the pandemic hit. Last year, you heard me in the fourth quarter presentation, is when it hit the most, and then this year it's been challenging as well. But I will present end of year report, I believe, sometime in the beginning of September. But it's been a surprisingly good year, and not in small portion because of these gifts and donations that we have received. All the organizations that have contributed, you know, most of them, you hear them every year: Remain Nantucket, Community Foundation for Nantucket, the Nantucket Golf Foundation, Egan Maritime Institute, and this year the Schmidt family as well, and all sorts of smaller donations that also help immensely with the operations of not only the community school but also the Nantucket Public Schools as well. They're all given with certain stipulations, or most of them. Some of them we do get, and they're given to a particular school with no specific purpose, so they can be used for needs of the school. But this is a presentation that just I like to express my personal and the Nantucket Public Schools and the community schools gratitude to everybody on the island that has been extremely generous with the schools. So if you have any questions, I can address them.
Martin?
Yeah, if one wanted to make a donation, is it on the website how to reach? Will they reach you, or they reach the principals, or how does that? What's the process?
If it's individual schools, they usually go to the individual school's office or the community school, and then there is a form that reaches central office, goes through to Logan O'Connor at central office, and then it gets on the school committee agenda. The process is then it's voted and accepted by the school committee, and then on a subsequent meeting, when the minutes of that meeting, when the gift was accepted, are voted on and approved, that's when the actual deposit can occur.
Okay, and if they wanted to earmark it for a specific item or a specific school, like I see like some backpacks on or something like that. So let's say I wanted to donate pencils or supplies or books, so I can earmark it for that specific
Absolutely.
donation.
Yeah, absolutely, okay. It can be earmarked for a specific purpose. It comes with the stipulation. We always honor all the stipulations that the donors put on all the gifts. So that's why they go in separate funds. They never get commingled with general budget funds or even the community school accounts. They go in separate accounts because they're for specific purposes.
If someone just made a general donation, where does that money go?
If it's a general donation, it usually comes for a specific school. For instance, whether it's for CPS, NHS, NES, NIS. If it's for the school, for the whole district, we have a central office or a centralized gift account as well. from which we can disperse, but I don't think I've seen any donations that have come to us and they haven't gone directly for a specific purpose. People are passionate about something, or that's how they donate. I mean, through their passion and interest, and any kind of program or initiative that the school or the community school has.
Thank you.
Questions?
No questions.
No, just, it's well done. I mean, thank you for this, and thank you Nantucket community, because you're so generous to our schools, and kudos to Mrs. Roberts over there, who has a majority of the gifts, so I know it's much needed. So, thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
Sort of like looking gift horse in the mouth.
Why'd you look at me when you say that?
Okay, community discussion votes to be taken. First, vote to approve the donation from the Joseph L. Vieira Fund Incorporated to Nantucket High School student athletes Justin Blois and Makai Bowden for invitation-only 2021 Ohio training camp in the amount of $1,102. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The June 4th, 2021 workshop meetings.
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting minutes of June 15th.
So moved.
Second. We have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Reorganization meeting minutes of June 28th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And transfers and invoices.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Before you go on, I don't know if Diane's able to talk about the donation. Are you able to talk
I
about,
think the gentlemen are here tonight that went to camp.
is it possible, as we have it on the agenda, I'd love to hear about experience. Would you be willing to come up and, sorry to put you on the spot, but it would really be lovely to hear about experience.
Is that 1,100 each or 1,100 together?
It was $551 each.
Okay.
So what was it like?
Want to come up to the microphone and introduce yourselves, and then that would be great.
I'm Justin Blois. I'm 17 years old. I'm a rising senior.
I'm Makai Bowden, also a rising senior, 17 years old.
I just want to thank you for giving us the donation. I think we both really appreciate it. You know, it wouldn't happen if it didn't come from via funds. So I really appreciate it, and I thank you.
So can I ask a question?
Sure.
So what was it like? Was it a week-long training camp, or how long
So
was
it
it?
was so first we had to do a regional camp where you had to put your film out, and then there were 6 different USA coaches that have to watch it. You get picked. So then both Makai and I got picked. So then we had to travel to Ohio, which is called a training camp, which is we go through different type of film sessions. There's kids all around the country coming around, just participating. It's like a training camp.
Mm-hmm.
It was different types of college coaches there, and it was a two-day camp, 4 practice sessions.
That's
So
great.
it was good.
I bet. You must have been tired when you came back. Huh?
I was tired, yeah.
That's great.
Now, what did you find? There were kids from around the country.
Mm.
How did you compete against them?
Some really good competition. I mean, when we both went there was a lot of kids that didn't know where Nantucket was. I mean, it's a small island, so when you say you're from Nantucket, Mass, it's just like blank. You don't know where it is. So you have to say Cape Cod, but I mean, kids from New York, Connecticut, Florida, Maryland, it's just good competition all around, so
Yeah,
it's fun.
that's great. What an opportunity. And congratulations, obviously, on your talent and
Thank
skill
you.
that you got to go there.
Thank you again.
You're welcome. And our whole board of directors was thrilled, absolutely thrilled that you two were chosen and that Coach Saradellis, submitted and asked for the donation. So he gets a big thank you too.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
And Okay, subcommittee work group, anybody have reports?
I haven't even met with my subgroup yet.
Well, it's okay, so you don't have a report.
Was I supposed to be on the diversity task force representative as well? With
I
Esmeralda?
think,
I think it is.
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
Is there an updated one of these, or this is one
Nope.
from last meeting?
We could ask Logan to
Send you
update,
another, I sent the updated one.
Okay,
yeah.
sorry, I didn't print that.
I'm resending.
Okay.
If you sent it up, I'll have it there somewhere. Thank you.
You're right, the one that we have in front of you, you're not on.
Okay, student council representative, we have not,
Not
has
yet.
not been chosen yet. Okay, agenda for the next meeting?
I'm hoping that we will do on August 3rd, we'll consider a school committee workshop meeting where we can look at district improvement goals and school committee goals as well. And that will give us a start to looking at the August 17th school committee date, which we will present the district, or we hope to present district and superintendent goals and do a hiring update, obviously projected enrollment and summer programs. We'd like to look at our MAP assessment and how that went this past year, and the Nantucket Community School update, and possibly a retreat date. We could have that.
So like retreat to Pocomo? Or
Not
does that mean like get on a boat?
exactly.
Oh, okay.
Does anybody on the committee have anything else?
No, sir.
No,
Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Were you going for a record there?
Look at that.
35 minutes.
35 minutes.